I'm going to say something that you probably don't want to hear. It's not your teammates, it's not the enemy comp, and it's not bad luck. It's the small decisions you're making every single game that is causing you to lose and stay behind. And today, I'm breaking down the 10 deadlock mistakes that are costing you wins. This mistake is single-handedly costing you games and control of the map. I see too many people living in the jungle and ignoring the trooper wave pushing into their walker. Not only do trooper waves actually give you more souls than jungle camps, even later into the game, but they also open up the opportunity for you to make plays around the map. Here's a scenario to help you understand. Here's a low rank game of one of my friends who's about Emissary 3. It's 15 minutes in, and instead of pushing the wave into the Guardian first, the Wraith takes the centers instead. This is bad because objectives are important. Also, Wraith just shreds the Guardian. So destroying the Guardian will give you 1,000 souls and enable the zipline to reach further, giving you more map control, and will also allow the troopers to gain more information by pushing deeper into the enemy side of the map. What the Wraith should do instead is push the wave into the Guardian first. Even if the Wraith doesn't actively push and destroy the objective, it still puts pressure onto the enemy to respond to the wave and allows the Wraith to take the centers easier because she will have information of anyone trying to push her from lane. It's important to note that when I say push the trooper waves, that it also means don't push the wave to be neutral. There's no troopers on your side, clear the wave, and then clear another one so that you're creating a positive push onto their side of the map, since you will have more troopers pushing into theirs. So now that we've talked about pushing the trooper wave, let's now talk about the map. The map is your best friend in Deadlock. It's how you get information, and it also helps you decide what your best possible next move is. You should be glancing at this whenever possible, but what do you do with the information the map actually provides? Well, here's another scenario for you. You see 4 people stacking in the mid lane trying to fight against your teammates. Instead of going to help your team, which will take you a lot of time to get there with no actual promise of you getting there before the fight's over, you should instead follow the last tip and push the trooper wave into the enemy walker and damage the walker as much as possible. It's okay to trade your life for destroying the walker. However, if you do not think you can destroy the walker, then it's also okay to back up once you stop seeing the 4 enemies on the map, since they'll probably be rotating. I understand this tip is more tailored towards people playing M1 characters since they're doing most of the damage to objectives anyway, but the tip still stands. The more information you gain, the more things you can do with that information. So dying for walker is good, but dying without bringing any value to your team is bad. I see a lot of random skirmishes, especially in lower ranked games. So don't end up playing Overwatch. Instead, you should take fights with a purpose in mind, like fighting over the enemy centers to deny them, taking a fight to get a pick so you can take mid boss, forcing an earned fight because your team is stronger, or to allow your teammate to push an enemy objective. All these are examples of taking good fights and fighting with a purpose in mind. Now, these fights might not always work out in your favor, but this is how you gain experience and get better at the game. Ignoring the clock can be absolutely detrimental because timing is important in Deadlock. In my last video, I showed you how certain timings affect your economy and macro around the map, like small camps and boxes spawning at 2 minutes and buffs spawning at 5 minutes, but certain timings also affect you directly, like when your power spikes hit, respawn timer spiking around 20 minutes, and understanding when objectives like mid-boss and the urn respawn. Understanding these timings allow you to make plays that you wouldn't have made otherwise, such as posturing for mid-boss exactly when it respawns, or posturing for buffs every 5 minutes. Since these timings give you the opportunity to gain an advantage, they're important to know, since if you're not gaining them, then the enemy is, and it's absolutely killing your win conditions. This is something that I see in every single rank. You win lane, you have a pretty good soul lead, and then you start farming the jungle at the back of the map. The reason this is bad is because you're giving up map control when you're ahead, and thanks to Deadlock's comeback mechanic, this allows the other team to catch back up. So instead, get aggressive and deny the enemy any souls that you can. This doesn't mean to live in their jungle to the point that you get ganked by 4 people, but push your wave into the walker so that they have to respond to it, and then take some of their jungle camps as you farm backwards into your side of the map. This puts pressure onto their objectives, denies the enemy souls, and helps you get closer to your next item and power spike, or to put it simply, extends your advantage over the opponent. Playing passive means you're not making plays, and you should really be looking to make plays and gain an advantage over your opponent no matter how small, since these tiny gains will act like a snowball and pile up over time until they're one big massive advantage over your opponent. Your time is important in Deadlock, so it's pretty much essential to notice pros and cons in the way that you use it so that you can make better decisions. You should generally avoid too much downtime where you're accomplishing next to nothing, or even avoid using your time in an inefficient way. The way to think about it is to always be thinking of better ways to utilize your time around the map. Stop going back to base to buy when you can grab boxes and farm on your way to the side shops around the map. Don't rotate all the way across the map to a fight that will be over when you get there. Basically, the cliche to spend your time wisely holds especially true in Deadlock. So you should be looking to be as efficient as possible with your time. If you combine the tips of fighting without a purpose and not using your time as a resource, you basically get this. You should be thinking of what purpose and what advantage your actions are causing. An example of this is if you're just farming the jungle, thinking that you're just farming the jungle. But a good example of this is thinking that, hey, I need 2,800 more souls for toxic bullets, which is my power spike. This is an example of thinking about what benefits or consequences your actions will have, and this is how you get better. It's important to note that you won't always have the right idea in this circumstance, but the crucial thing is that you're always thinking about it so that if it doesn't work out, you know why and you know how to improve in this case. And this tip alone will lead to more improvement than any 10-minute video about Deadlock could ever give you, since now you're basically solving your own problems. This one is simple, but I saw myself committing this same mistake a lot of the time. Deadlock is a game about advantages and disadvantages, as I've repeated many times. Many lower ranked games go on for so very long because they do not know how to close out games and capitalize on advantages throughout the match. The general rule of thumb is that you should always be gaining an advantage when the enemy makes a mistake. For example, if you get a couple kills after the 20-minute mark, the most effective way to capitalize on that is by going mid-boss, because you literally gain 3 extra lives. Again, some advantages are better than others, but as long as you're gaining an advantage, well then you're generally headed in the right direction. The higher in ranks you go though, the more you will see players fighting around these potential advantages. I mean, just watch a Deadlock night shift if you want to see pro play example, and basically every single timing is fought over because each team wants to gain an advantage over the other. These rules or guidelines that I'm giving you can only push you so far. The truth of the matter is that there are a million different scenarios in a million different Deadlock games. These are general rules of thumbs, not live and die by rules or live and die by mistakes. Maybe there's a scenario where you get a pick in the late game and the enemy now has a 70-second respawn timer, but the waves are pushing into your base. Don't go fix the waves if your patron isn't down. In this scenario, you should not go fix the wave if your patron isn't down. Instead, you should show up to mid-boss and force a team fight since the enemy is at a disadvantage. There are times where breaking the rules and making the non-traditional play is the right play. So follow your instincts, but also follow your team. Because if your team makes a call and you're not there, well then the other team is at an advantage since you're missing. Here's a tip before we get to number 10. You do not always need to be the most farmed on your team in order to provide an advantage. For example, if you're playing Page and you have 10k more souls than your M1 carry like Venator, well, chances are that's a problem. This is bad because of the fact that Venator is now behind, and he will not be able to produce enough damage in team fights, which will result in you calling him some choice names. Instead, aim to play to the strengths of your role. If you're Page, well, then one of your strengths is that you can help your M1 carry become more farmed. And if you're playing a different character like Abrams, then one of the strengths of your role is that you can invade and deny the enemy farm way more easily. Obviously, there's more than one way to play a role, and there's probably a million different scenarios in your games, but these are some suggestions to get you started so that If you're Rem, you're not stuck in a side lane for 20 minutes. This is probably the most important mistake that I see on the list. I see a lot of people lose a couple games, make a couple mistakes, have a couple bad teammates, and then their mindset just turns extremely negative. Suddenly, now every teammate is terrible, every game is unfair, and the cards are stacked against them. It's very easy to fall in this trap, and I myself fall into this trap somewhat often. However, it's important to realize that you will not win every single game. Sure, sometimes a game is terrible, and it seems like absolutely nothing you do is going to make an impact and win you the game, which may be true for that specific game, but that doesn't mean that your next game is unwinnable. Fix your mindset by going into the next game fresh, because if you're focused on improving and fixing your mistakes every single game, then on average, you will climb. If you don't believe me, well, then here's proof that I did it myself. With the legacy ranking system, I used to be emissary, even lower a lot of the time. And over my last 200 games alone, I climbed from Phantom to Eternus 4, and I'm still in the process of climbing. Anyways, that's about it for me. If you enjoyed this video, then consider subscribing, consider leaving a like, consider commenting. All of these help me out a ton and is very greatly appreciated. See ya.